Welcome back to the channel, to a not so extreme test ride. We have the Yamaha T700 Extreme today and having fun in the woods. So yeah, what I think about this bike as a typical KTM fanboy. Let's see. Well, I have tested this bike today. It was some years ago I tested the standard T7, and you can look at that video somewhere in the upper corners. I could link it. We have the T7 in the extreme version, and I couldn't resist to test ride it because I was very curious what they have done to the bike. So we could walk through the news on this bike compared to the T7 standard. Of course, you have the suspension. The Kyoba suspension, it's 230 millimeters in the front and 220 in the rear. And that is 20 millimeters up from the standard T7. And the suspension is fully adjustable as well compared to the standard suspension. I think that's the biggest news on the bike. You have also some other cool things on the bike that is new. You have the new TFT display that you have seen on the World Raid version before. And you also have rally foot pegs. Comes standard. Otherwise it's pretty much a standard bike, except from the high fender as well, that differs from the standard one. Here we also have one of the news, the chain guide. And the ground clearance on this bike is pretty equal to my 890 Adventure R. It's 260 millimeters. I have slightly more. Not even noticeable, I think. The bash plate could be, of course, a lot better than this, so I think an aftermarket bash plate is something to have or get. Me coming from a 890R, that's my bike, 2023. Yeah, so what's my opinion after test riding this bike, you might wonder. Yeah, it's mixed feelings here compared to when I test rode it the first time. I wasn't really super happy with it, jumping off my bike, then a 790R at the time. I think the standard suspension was pretty mushy and so on, and the bike felt a little bit powerless, I think, at the time. But now we're here again a few years later with an upgraded bike. It started with riding off from Bike, my dealer. Thank you very much, Bike Trollhättan, for lending me this bike and test it today, an extended test ride actually, on forest trails, curvy roads, and on gravel roads, in my backyard, so to speak, here in Trollhättan. It definitely has been a fun ride. That's a problem with me test riding bikes actually, because I always think it's fun with bikes. So I think I never jumped off a bike and come here and tell you that this, what the heck is this? I can't really remember it anyway, but I think it's fun to ride. I think that's not a problem, it's a privilege. When I start riding off with this bike and accelerating immediately, I felt that, oh, there's no quick shifter. When you get used to that, you miss it, at least me. The other thing is there is not much electronics to fiddle with on the bike. You just ride it, so to speak. You could turn off the ABS. I didn't do it. As this bike is pretty simple on the display and electronic functions, it's not much that it offers. You have this little wheel over here that you can turn. So what you could read the temp and your coolant temperature, and your odo, and your average fuel consumption. Oh, 7.2, right? Okay. And the nominal. You also could see the trip F, trip CD, and you also have trip 2 and 1. That's interesting, and you can also push that button to get into a menu for settings, and you also could set the ABS mode. You can turn off the ABS, and you can also have off-road ABS, and you also have the standard on and off button down there to quickly turn off all the ABS. Turn the ABS on, off, or off-road. So that's the rear off. You can also set your themes, and there you have Explorer, Street, and Raid. I have actually used it in the Explorer. That was pretty much what I think was good. The Raid is more like a trip meter, what it looked like. So there's not much to actually do, but it's a lot better than the original display, I think, the one that was standard before. Other controls here, if you could connect your mobile phone, you could control it through these buttons. Not tried it. Otherwise, it's pretty basic. It's a 12 volt USB over here. Just ride, so to speak, and that's great actually with a motorbike. I really enjoyed that today. Road-wise, yeah, it behaves really good. I couldn't feel any difference from the standard one. It's a good travel bike. It's an adventure travel bike, and it's actually a really nice bike to ride. How it behaves, it's very flickable and predictable. It's an intuitive bike to ride on the road and as well off-road. We'll get to that. The wind protection is what it is. It's an adventure bike with that typical rally-looking fairing, and it's good. Not worse than the KTM. Probably slightly better, but I don't know. It's equal probably, and as well to the BMW 900G that I was trying a few weeks ago. A really fun test ride as well. You can look at it. Behaves good, picks up speed good for this almost 74 horsepower and a lot less of torque than I have on my KTM, but it does good. The gearbox feels a little bit chunky or clunky. Don't know how to say that, but you really need to use the gearbox and so on. But the bike has actually enough with torque to stay on gears and so on, and that's actually surprising when you're coming from a more powerful bike. The clutch feeling is also actually very great. It feels very it's easy to operate, the clutch, very good feeling of it, and operates good. When it comes to the ergonomics of the bike, it feels actually very intuitive and good. You sit on the bike and you have everything, and you have a very good sitting position on this bike. Let me sit on it and you see. The rally pegs is really good. And the controls are perfect. You don't have the adjustable things that you have on the BMW, for example, and as well on my KTM. You can turn it and adjust it if you want to, the brake pedal. But it was actually really good to operate this bike with the motocross boots. You have plenty of room on the foot controls. The seat. This bike is rather high actually, but I don't think it's unmanageable or too high. I actually felt that the 890R Rally was higher to sit on when I was on it. I was very tippy-toe. On this bike, yeah, not tippy-toey, but it feels really good and really nice controls. I don't need to adjust anything on the bike to ride it. Good to stand. Good standing stance and position, and good sitting. I have been standing almost all the time today when I was riding, and I have been sitting for a while as well, and I felt that this is the off-road seat. It's a one-piece seat. Maybe I can't see it because of these Moscow bags, the R10s. I felt that I might be sore on the whole day riding. I don't know. I've never felt that on my KTM actually. Standing, sitting. Oh, wonderful. I'm not surprised. I felt that last time I test rided this bike actually as well a few years ago. The ergonomics on the handlebar is very good, and you have the fairing as I told you. You have a good protection. It is a nice bike. You sit something more in it or than on top of it compared to my 890R. It's as I said, it's very intuitive to ride. Okay, so when we come to riding this bike off-road, or so to speak on the tractor trails, single trails and gravel roads, today that's where I like to ride bikes, so that's where I'll test it as well. Even if road riding is very good to try out when you're traveling and so on. I think it did excellent. I said it last time as well. This bike is so easy to ride. It's very, very intuitive and controllable. So yeah, it just steers. Just do what you want to do and so on. As I told you before, if you're used to the like 25 horsepower more or something like that you have on the KTM 890 or almost 30 maybe, yeah, you could feel that you need to use the throttle a little bit more if you want to slide or do wheelies and stuff like that. At least me, I'm not a hard enduro rider, so I don't test bike like that because I'm not a hard enduro rider. I'm a standard adventure bike rider, and I do adventure riding. This is something I really, really like with the T7, and exceptionally this Extreme. Would I buy one of the T7s, I would buy this T7 Extreme, I think. I've not tried the World Raid, I've just been sitting on it. It has a huge tank, which could be handy up here in Scandinavia and or at adventure travels. But probably you're good with these 6 liters. Say probably, it's on the border probably for to be convenient. You can tell me about that, you guys who are riding this bike. Bash me as well if you want to in the comments. I think the suspension is doing really, really good if you get into the suspension as well. You have these 230 millimeters in front and the 220 in the rear, as I told. The rear does very good. You have a very good feeling of it, and yeah, the not so extreme riding I'm doing, it's perfectly well, I think. Very planted, and it takes obstacles, and it doesn't dive too much, and it's not soft, mushy or anything like that. It's a good suspension, I think, and it's fully adjustable. In the rear end, I felt when I pushed it a little bit harder on some gravel roads, it could be that I need a fatter spring, so to speak, on the rear. I don't know. It felt a little bit soft. Maybe I could crank it up, but probably the spring could be changed for perfection. But it's good that it is for adventure riding and everything like that. If you push it, you maybe want to adjust it. But I have not adjusted anything of these fully adjustable suspensions. That is the best upgrade for this bike, actually. I also really like the high fender. You could debate on that in the comments, high or low fender. I know some will probably buy this bike and put on the low fender because they like it. It gets less muddy on the on your radiator and so on. But there are other guys out there riding in mud that it's building up mud behind these low fenders. So it's cool look with a high fender, isn't it? We could just leave it at that. Cool look. This bike has some years, but it still looks good. It's a clean bike, clean look. It's tested by now. The engine is tested. Pretty much a faultless bike. I don't really know. Robert and the guys who have many kilometers on their bike might chime in here. I think he have changed the rear bearings and so on. I know he upgraded his suspension because he has the standard bike, pretty good, or probably the best upgrade you can do. All other things are Farkels probably. Yeah, but I'm impressed actually. It's a really nice bike to ride, and it's very easy to control. It's very easy to control when it gets gnarly, if you need to turn around on a trail. It's very, I don't know how to put it. It's a bike that's very easy to ride. It makes you a better rider very easy, this bike. That's what I feel when I ride it, and I felt it as well on the standard one. But this is so much better in the suspension. I hate to say it, so how about to compare it to my 890R? Would I outride this bike on the trail with my own bike? That's a good question. What do you think? No. This bike has perfect amount of power for the kind of trails I have been on today, and as well on the larger gravel roads and open gravel roads, so to speak. Because of the bike are so intuitive to ride, you pick up speed easy, you control it easy, so you become a good rider. My KTM Adventure R is really nice with a low weight, more fuel, and almost the same weight. This is 205 kilos wet, and my is like 210 wet, but I have more fuel as well. So top heaviness. I remember that I felt the top heaviness of this bike when I tested it the first time. Today I didn't really feel that when I was riding around with it. Not on the trail either, not slow speed. And when you are in speed, you definitely don't feel anything like that. So compared to the 890R, yeah, maybe it has more balance in low speed and so on with the low fuel tanks. But I didn't feel it. It feels so easy to turn around and so on, even if it's a heavy middleweight bike, this too. Yeah, I really hate to say that as a KTM fanboy. It's a great bike actually. Would I buy it? Would I become a T7er? I don't know actually. If I'm looking at a bike in the same category as my own, I like the power of my own bike. For some reason, I like the technical stuff on that bike. What could we say about the brakes? First, when I took off, I felt the brake was a little bit mushy, and I felt, wow, this is a lot worse than on the KTM and especially on the BMW as well, 900 GS. But then during the day when I've been riding the bike, it actually feels that the brakes have improved a lot. I can't really say that the brakes are as bad as I thought first today actually. Maybe I adapt and or the brakes improved due to they were new or something. I don't know, something like that. Yeah, I really like the bike, and it definitely have enough of power to have fun, and you don't get outrided with this bike on the trails, definitely not. And that's mainly because I think it's so easy to ride actually, and very intuitive. I have said that many times right now, but I think that's the key with this bike. And reliability, of course, that's always a question, and something to appreciate with the bike that have been on the market and proven itself. Okay, so that was it. I think I had a really fun day on this bike today, and I hope you enjoyed this little test ride summary from my side. Not extreme, but more like an ADV test ride. Okay, ciao, see you out there.